William Butler Yeats. Presentation by Tori Stevens. Introduction. William Butler Yeats is known as one of the greatest poets of the 20th century, and his poems were greatly influenced by his life. Yeats' Irish roots and identity shows through his poetry because of the love he has for his mother country. Yeats wanted to help others see the beauty in Ireland through his poems. Easter 1916. Yeats' poem, Easter 1916, tells of a bloody rebellion called the Easter Rising. During this rising, around 1,600 Irish citizens stood up and resisted British control. They wanted to free Ireland from the grip of the English. The British court-martialed 170 of the rebels, and 90 were sentenced to be executed. 15 of those 90 were leaders of the uprising. In his poems, Yeats did not depict these leaders as heroes. He chastised them for not leading more peaceful lives. Although he did not agree, he still mourned the loss and honored the leaders that died in his poem. Into the Twilight. Yeats' poem, Into the Twilight, describes Irish citizens' feelings during that time. You can tell Irish citizens are tainting Ireland from the lines, "Although hope fall from you and love decay, burning in airs of a soundless time." You can also hear Yeats' sadness in the lines, "And love is less kind than the grey twilight, and hope is less dear than the dew of the morn." He is saddened because he can feel more love and hope in the grey twilight and the dew than he feels in the people around him. The Lake Isle of Innisfree. Yeats imagines the perfect place and longs to find it someday. "I will arise and go now, and go to Innisfree, and a small cabin build there of clay and wattles made. 19 rows will I have there, a hive for the honey bee, and live alone in the bee-loud glade." He longs for it so much that he hears water lapping constantly in his deep heart's core. "I will arise and go now, for always night and day I hear lake water lapping with low sounds by the shore. While I stand on the roadway or on the pavement's gray, I hear it in deep heart's core." To Ireland in the Coming Times. In this poem, Yeats is asking to be seen among the poets who have sweetened Ireland's miserable history. These poets, Thomas Osborne Davis, James Clarence Mangan, and Sir Samuel Ferguson, were very influential in Irish literature. Along with that, he asks not to be judged for the presence of a woman in many of his poems. This woman, who he refers to as the red rose-bordered hem, is said to be Maud Gonne, who is a woman Yeats loved dearly throughout his life. The Fisherman.
The Fisherman by W. Yeats. Although I can see him still, the freckled man who goes to a grey place on a hill in grey Gomara clothes at dawn to cast his flies. It's long since I began to call up to the eyes this wise and simple man. All day I've looked in the face what I'd hoped would be to write for my own race and the reality. The living men that I hate, the dead man that I loved, the craven man in his seat, the insolent unreproved, and no knave brought to book who was one of drunken cheer, the witty man in his joke aimed at the commonest ear, the clever man who cries the catch cries of the clown, the beating down of the wise, and great art beaten down. May 12 months since suddenly I began, in scorn of this audience, imagining a man, and his sun-freckled face, and grey Connemara cloth, climbing up to a place where stone is dark under froth, and the downturn of his wrist when the flies drop in the stream. A man who does not exist, a man who is but a dream, and cries Before I am old, I shall have written him one poem, maybe as cold and passionate as the dawn.
The fisherman represents Yeats' ideal audience. In the middle of the poem, Yeats is angry and explaining the people he hates, although he calms down, and by the end of the poem, Yeats is vowing to fight for the arts using his poetry. In conclusion, we know William Yeats was a major influence on the Irish people. He helped many grow to love Ireland the way he did, and he also helped many who already loved Ireland feel unashamed and proud. He will always be known as a great literature warrior for Ireland.